We are to order on the City Council of the City of Brainerd. It's June 7th at 7:30. City Administrator Bergman, will you please call the roll?
Absolutely. Erickson.
Here.
O'Day.
Here.
Stunek.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Pritchett.
Here.
Stingline. Here. Bevins.
Here.
And Bateau.
Here. We're all here. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Play ball. Mary wasn't here today, so I wasn't good.
to correct you. Item 4 is the approval of the agenda. Is there any additions or corrections to the agenda? If not, is there a motion to approve? Motion by Chairman Johnson, second by Pritchett. Any discussion on the agenda? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. We are underway. Item 5, consent calendar. This is a notice to the public that all matters listed are considered routine by the council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless good cause is shown prior to the time the council votes on the motion to be adopted by roll call. Is there a motion to adopt the consent calendar?
So moved.
Motion by Stunek. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Erickson. Any discussion? Hearing none, please, Administrator Bergman, call the roll.
Erickson.
Yes.
O'Day.
Yes.
Stunek.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Stingline. Yes. And Bevins.
Yes. All right. So if your last name is Hermerding and you're watching at home, the wedding is on. That was item number H.
And music practice for the wedding is
There
tomorrow.
was some concern.
Wednesday.
Item 6 is Community Member of the Month. Mr. Mayor.
Absolutely. First and foremost, we're going to apologize to the public that I am wearing a hat. This is what it looks like without a hat after you've coached baseball. This is what it looks like with a hat. We'll keep it at a nice pace of hair. Great opportunity this month to recognize a member of the community that has been instrumental in a ton of things, but probably most notable is that of the efforts down at the riverfront and with the Riverfront Committee, but also, and probably more instrumental in the area known as Rotary Park. And I'm actually going to let Jennifer Bergman speak on behalf of this as well, because she has worked very closely with John Forrest in his efforts on a lot of things, but specifically with Rotary. So Jennifer, if you please.
Absolutely. So very deserving of this award. John really has been responsible for assembling most of the property that is on behalf of Rotary, that is now Rotary Riverside Park. It's 195 acres. Don't have this verified, but I understand that Rotary Riverside Park is the third largest municipal park in the state of Minnesota. So I think something really to be proud of, the city of Brainerd. In addition, I've been working with John since 2015 on the Brainerd Riverfront Committee, and really very strong voice in making sure that something came out of that grant that the city received from the Brainerd Lakes Area Community Foundation. And so a lot of credit, I think, goes to John Forrest and his tenacity and sticking with that group. So between the riverfront and Rotary Riverside Park, I think he's very well deserving.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's time now to start welcoming these members into the chambers. So, John, I'm sorry, we dropped the ball on that one, but moving forward, I think it's time to start welcoming these community members into the chambers and presenting their awards that way. But again, this month, the month of June 2021, Community Member of the Month, John Forrest.
Thank you, John, and thank you, Mr. Mayor and Jennifer, for introducing John to the rest of us. Item 7 is our council committee reports. 7A is the Personal and Finance Committee Chairman Gabe Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have 12 items on the agenda, the first of which is the League of Minnesota Cities Insurance Trust Premium Renewal for 2021-22. And the motion is to accept the renewal and add on a primary auto liability for employees at the cost of $97 a year, and not add on the excess liability $1 million coverage for $30,000 a year. And I so move.
Motion by Chairman Johnson. Is there a second? Second. Second by Stingline. Any discussion? Seeing none, oh, I'm sorry, Chairman Johnson.
Just the overall annual cost is $361,000, which is up from 340, what was it, Connie?
Went up about 3%.
Went up about 3% this year, so it wasn't a bad increase. And the $97 a year premium is for our employees driving city-owned vehicles. If they happen to be running a personal errand and get in an accident, they're still covered.
Excellent. We've got a motion, we've got a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next item is the Minnesota Statewide All Hazard Incident Management Organization Cooperative, and the motion is to adopt the attached resolution and approve the appropriate signatures on the cooperative agreement, and I so move.
Second.
We have a motion by Johnson, second by Stunek. Any discussion, Mr. Johnson?
This used to be a joint powers agreement, and it's the organization or the group that would send Tim Holmes around the country responding to hurricanes or forest fires or floods or whatnot. They're kind of changing their organization from being a joint powers to a cooperative, but essentially not much change. It clarified some things we weren't sure about in the past, so it's an improvement on the joint powers. And Tim is on the line if anybody has specific questions.
Any questions for Chief Holmes? Any other discussion? Hearing none, we've got a motion, we've got a second. This is a resolution. Administrator Bergman, please call the roll.
Erickson.
Yes.
O'Day.
Yes.
Stunek.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Stingline.
Yes.
And Bevins.
Yes, that resolution is adopted. Please proceed.
The next item is the sale of retired fire department equipment. Not Kevin Stunek, though.
Yeah, throw him in.
The motion is to,
Get rid of him.
He's just for rent, not for sale.
Let's put a name Stunek sticker on.
yeah, let's name the new Polaris. But the motion is to authorize the sale of the retired Kawasaki mule and trailer using the public auction site, and I so move.
We have a motion by Johnson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Stingline. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Thank you. Please proceed.
Okay, Mr. Chair, if you'll have it, this next one is the approve the promotion of a deputy police chief, but out of committee, we did two actions in one motion where we promoted the deputy chief and a new sergeant. Is that okay with you?
Yep, that's just fine.
Okay, the motion is to promote Sergeant John Davis to Deputy Police Chief effective June 8th, 2021. Further, that he be placed on Step 5 of the Deputy Police Chief wage grid pursuant to Resolution Number 3819 that sets the 2019-2021 wages for the Deputy Police Chief position, and recommend the promotion of Officer Joel Reed to Police Sergeant effective June 8th, 2021. Further, that he be placed on Step 3 of the Sergeant wage grid, and I so move.
Second.
We have a motion by Johnson, a second by Stunek. Any discussion? Chairman Johnson.
So Officer Davis was a sergeant, and they had an active sergeant list at the Civil Service Commission, so they were able to fill that position at the same time they recommended promoting Davis up to Deputy Police Chief. So we're getting both of these moves made tonight, and as of tomorrow morning, our police chief is going to have a Deputy Police Chief and a full roster of sergeants, so things are looking good over at the police department.
Excellent, thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Please proceed.
Okay, the next item is the retirement of Police Records Management Lead Sandra Anderson, and the motion is to accept with regret the retirement of Police Records Management Lead Sandra Anderson effective September 25th, 2021, and to authorize severance pay pursuant to city policy, and further to authorize staff to backfill the position, and I so move.
We have a motion by Johnson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Stangline. Any discussion? Chairman
We're
Johnson.
going to backfill the position as soon as possible so we can use Sandra's institutional knowledge to help train this new lead in on how things best work in the police department.
Excellent. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Please proceed.
Next item is a community service officer hiring ratification, and the motion is to ratify the hiring of community service officer Andrew Thilke effective May 24th, 2021 at the agreed upon rate of $12 per hour, and I so move.
Second.
We have a motion by Johnson, second by Stunek. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Thank you. Please proceed.
Okay, the next item, Mr. Chair, is to approve the promotion of Robert Anderson to Street Maintenance 2. This was part of the 2021 budget, and the motion is to approve the promotion of Robert Anderson to Street Maintenance 2 effective July 1st, 2021. Further, that he be placed on step 5 of the Street Maintenance 2 wage grid, and I so move.
Second.
Motion by Johnson, second by Stengline. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Please proceed.
The next two items are extensions of franchise agreements. The first one is the agreement with CTC. And the motion is to approve the franchise agreement between the City of Brainerd and Consolidated Telephone Company.
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you, Mr. Stunek. Is there any discussion? Mr. Johnson?
So this is an extension of an agreement we've had there. It's gone back and forth between Joe and their legal team quite a bit, and there have been some changes made, and some really good changes in that this CTC agreement is now going to match up with the charter agreement we're going to vote on next, and I think that's really big. And another change, we are still getting 5% of all cable fees in the city of Brainerd, but this agreement is a 10-year agreement instead of a 15-year agreement, in part because the cable television world is changing quite a bit, and it will probably look much different in 10 years.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Please proceed.
Thank you, and this is for the charter agreement, and the motion is to approve the franchise agreement between the City of Brainerd and Spectrum Mid-America LLC, and I so move.
Motion by Johnson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Stengline. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Please proceed.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. The next one is the parking lot lease with BNSF. We did figure out how to get them to return a phone call, and that is to pay them 1/12 of what they think they are owed. So the motion is to authorize staff to pay the remaining balance of $11,881.34 for the April 21 through March 22 renewal period before the next council meeting, and I so move.
Second.
Motion by Johnson, second by Stunek. Mr. Johnson?
Yeah, so you remember we just recently decided let's try doing this month by month while the parking commission tries to figure out a plan of maybe not having this lease. Well, we paid 1 month, BNSF 2 months, and BNSF called and said, the agreement says it's a once a year payment, pay the rest of it right now. So we're left right now in the position of either do we not pay it and kick everybody out of the parking lot tomorrow, or do we pay it for the rest of the year right now and give the parking commission until March of 2022 to figure out a plan of what they think the parking situation downtown should look like in regards to that lot. So we decided pay the full amount, let the parking commission know by the end of the year they should have a pretty good plan in place to present to us.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion passes. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Next item is a refund of the 2021 nuisance assessment for property ID 412409998. The motion is to authorize staff to refund the 2021 nuisance payable in the amount of $866.36 to the property owner of PID 412409998 with the address of 513 South 8th Street, Brainerd. I so move.
Second.
We have a motion by Johnson, a second by Stengline. Chairman Johnson.
Thank you. So this is a new property owner. They purchased the property last year, and it's common that when properties are purchased in the city of Brainerd, the city will get a request for any outstanding assessments on the property that we can add to be paid at closing. They sent that request. We responded, and we said the amount was $2,028.33, of which the property owner paid at closing. We missed what was going to be added to 2021. So it got added onto his tax bill this year. He would have paid it at closing if we would have done it right. We didn't, so staff just recommend, he asked for us to forgive the $800. He has cleaned up the property, painted the house, cleaned up the lawn, improved the property, hasn't received any more fines. He's done what we want property owners in this city to do. So we figured refunding him the $866 from the prior property owner's nuisance was fair.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? It was my understanding that the former property owner was paying the principal of that 866. Is that not the case?
All of that, I do believe he was in back taxes. He had not paid the $2,000 of the nuisances that had gone from pay year 2016 to 2020. So I don't think he was paying on anything. What happened then when we did our nuisance assessments, it wasn't recorded yet at the county, the sale. So all of those public hearing notices went to the old property owner, not the new property owner, so he couldn't come and contest in October and November that, these should have been paid by the old property owner. So it was kind of a conglomeration of everything. It was a perfect storm. The nuisance assessments that we're talking about were accrued from September of 2019 through October 2019. When we were doing the assessment search, there were so many back years that it was assumed that those 2019s were going on the 2020 roll, but it's not. That's our cutoff, and so it was a perfect storm all around.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The committee also received an update from Connie on the American Rescue Plan Act update. And the update, in a sense, is the federal government spent a lot of money in March, and we're going to get some of it, but we don't know how much or via what channels or anything. And staff is monitoring the situation and will keep us informed.
Thank you.
End of report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Next up is B, Safety and Public Works. Chairman Mike O'Day.
Yes, we had 6 items on the agenda tonight, first of which was the 4th of July celebration. 4th of July is back. I was happy to see this one. So the motion coming out of committee was approval of the attached event street closure application under the conditions. The applicant remove any banners and signs after the event, and that the applicant ensures coordinate the activities for the day regarding traffic control, etc., with the police department. And I so move.
Second.
Motion by O'Day, second by Pritchett. Any discussion? Chairman O'Day?
Basically, the parade is back in the regular parade route. Staging will be at CLC. And there will be fireworks observable below at the lower site of the high school. There will be some areas that are not accessible because of construction, but Mr. Mayor, through Community Action, has put a lot of work and effort into this, so I don't know if you're wanting him to add anything. It looks like he wants to.
Mr. Mayor, do you want to flip hats and give us a little bit of anything on this parade?
That's the 4th of July celebration hat. It's a rally cap. We'll flip it around. Anyways, the celebration looks to be moving forward. The parade at 6 p.m. We will not have any entertainment because we canceled the bands and everything, obviously with COVID. It's a picnic type atmosphere after the parade is over until the fireworks at 10:15. The high school hill will not be available, so make sure that people are aware of that. That's where people like to watch it. However, we will be using the grandstands this year, which will be really fun. It'll be a little bit different viewing experience. Football field, I got a big, huge, absolutely not. So, which I expected. So, no football field, no high school hill, but we've got plenty of space down there. It should be a lot of fun. And we have informed the fireworks crew, excuse me, Joe, you may want to plug your ears on this, to have a couple questionable fireworks involved. A couple questionable ones.
Good thing our insurance people are not here either.
Is it less than 4?
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Mayor. All right, we have a motion. We have a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Great news, that motion passes. Please proceed.
Yeah, the second item for Safety Public Works was a motion to recommend the approval of the attached change order in the amount of $17,747.87 for the improvement 19-01 Northwest 4th Street reconstruction project, and I so move.
I have a motion by O'Day. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Erickson. Any discussion? Chairman O'Day.
Basically, this is moving the sewer over so that we don't have to shut down a water main to all of, would it be Northwest Brainerd or far north Brainerd? And Kevin gets to keep his water on.
Oh, thank God. My sprinkler system will like it.
And it also serves a dual purpose. The sewer being what did you say it was 48 inches? Being so close to a water main in the winter could potentially have froze that water main in extremely cold weather. So having it further away actually saves us from having that potential issue.
Perfect. Any further discussion besides the obvious, are there gonna be sewer videos? We're all pretty excited about that. Even the finance director gets excited about it. All right, hearing no further discussion, we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Thank you. Chairman Day, please proceed.
Item number 3 was motion to adopt the attached resolution in which approves the sale of parcel 305 and the 2 temporary construction easements to the state of Minnesota for $4,000 and as identified in the attached exhibit. And I so move.
Motion by O'Day, second by Pritchett. Any discussion?
Oh, and we also added to that motion, sorry.
Yeah. Oh.
Recommending to deposit those funds into Fund 401 to offset any potential cost shares associated with the bridge replacement project and attached trail project slated for 2025.
Okay. Okay with that, seconder? Second. All right. Any discussion on item number 3? Chairman O'Day.
It's basically allowing an easement, if you can see on the, it's hard to point out. Yes, where he's got the arrow. It's a long parcel where it says 305 so that they can get down and build the bridge, which is just to the right and north of that. So $4,000, they get to use a piece of land that we don't use.
Perfect. Excellent. Any further discussion? Hearing none, this is a resolution, so City Administrator Bergman, please call the roll.
Erickson.
Yes.
O'Day.
Yes.
Stunek.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Pritchett.
Yes.
Stingline.
Yes.
And Bevins.
Yes, that resolution is adopted. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Please proceed.
Item number 4. This was a discussion on, this is not the one. This was a discussion on the testing for our projects in southeast Brainerd. And the testing that we are recommending to approve, losing my spot.
Page 220 if you're looking at page numbers.
So, motion coming out of committee was to recommend authorizing testing services contract with Independent Testing Technologies in the amount of $8,550. And I so move.
Motion by O'Day, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Tad Erickson. Any discussion? Mr. Chair?
Basically, they were the lowest bid, so that's what we went with.
Okay. Chairman Johnson?
Which is my question, Mr. Chair, is they were the lowest bid, $8,000. Brown Intertech, who does a lot of work for the city, bid $23,000. What's the difference? Why the $15,000 difference between the two?
I think this is a good question for Mr. Sandy.
Mr. Sandy?
Yep, thank you, Mr. Chair. So try to explain it a little bit in the agenda request. So on our local improvements, we'll usually try to get as many quotes as we can. Braun tends to be pretty conservative on the number of tests that they perform on a project. So testing is weird where it's very dependent on how the contractor does in their operations. So if the contractor's really slow, we're doing a lot more testing because a lot of the tests are a per day type of thing or a per amount of material. So if the contractor's going really slow, they're doing a lot more tests. So bronze are usually like the worst case scenario because we'll never even get close to the amount that they usually bid. On the flip side, ITTs are usually like pretty close to, the amount that are gonna be necessary or even under a little bit. And not only that, ITT's costs are a little bit cheaper because they're in town, they're not driving from, I think St. Cloud is where Braun comes from. Braun, we do recommend Braun do our state aid work most of the time because they work very closely with the state of Minnesota and their testing services labs, making sure that all their plants are certified, that kind of stuff. And so we do end up paying a little more for Braun to come in, but they know how to work with the state. They do very good final reporting with the state of Minnesota, especially on our state aid projects where we don't necessarily have to follow the schedule of materials control for our local stuff, and so we try to get the best deal possible on our local projects.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Please proceed.
Item number 6 was an appeal for the 1518 Quince Street.
What about 5?
Did we skip 5? Oh, yeah, no, number 5, sorry. Request to review South Sixth Street aesthetics policy for 2022 construction. We didn't really have a motion, it was more of a verbal recommendation to tie into the aesthetics of College Drive. The large retaining walls will be on, between Joseph and Ronald Street on South Sixth, as well as covering the opposite boulevard with some colored concrete so as not to have to mow it, and it's sloped, so it's kind of a pain. But those aesthetics will match up to a lot of what's going on with College Drive and kind of pull together a theme between South Sixth and College Drive.
Can you make that in a motion?
We motion to recommend staff move forward with the aesthetics of College Drive going into the South Sixth project of 2022. And I so move.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by O'Day, a second by Pritchett. Any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Now you can hit 6.
Okay, now we'll go to 6. So 6 was an appeal for the 1518 Quince Street nuisance abatement. And coming out of committee, we had a discussion with Ms. Strand. She gave her side, and Attorney Langle gave the city side of the story. The appeal was toward the abatement of any more than 4 dogs at this house. And we found throughout the hearing that there are no more dogs at this house. So council has decided, or SPW decided to move forward with no further action at this time necessary, as the abatement has taken care of itself. And as far as I know, whatever came out of SPW was final. So if you want to have a motion through council, you could, but I don't think it's
we need to.
necessary.
Nope. Any questions? Yeah, Mr. Johnson.
One question, so they were the final order on this request to appeal or whatever, but if 14 dogs show up on that property tomorrow, the city will still go and say, hey, remember, you can only have 4 dogs, correct?
Starts all over again.
As a matter of fact, we can get a warrant to do that too.
Yeah.
Good question. Any other questions? What was that, Mr. Chansky?
Moving it over to me, but I didn't want you to think that I actually had something to say.
Thank you.
They're playing tetherball with.
All right, so there's no action taken on that. Anything else, Chairman O'Day?
That was pretty much the gist of it, I think.
All right. And is your report over?
End of report.
Excellent. Item 8 is new business. Item 8A is the first reading of proposed ordinance number 1516. This is an ordinance amending the Brainerd City Charter. Is there a motion to hold the first reading of proposed ordinance 1516?
I'd move to hold and dispense with the actual reading of the first reading of proposed ordinance 1516, an ordinance amending the Brainerd City Charter.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Chairman Johnson, a second by Chief Stunek. Any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. 8B is the first reading of proposed ordinance 1517, an ordinance amending section 51566, which is the transit food unit overlay. So what we're doing is we're looking for a motion to hold the first reading of proposed ordinance 1517 and dispense with the actual reading.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion by Erickson, second by Pritchett. Any discussion? Mr. Johnson?
Can I have the changes explained to me a little bit, if Tad could, or David Chansky?
Yes, I think that's excellent. Mr. Chansky or Liaison Erickson, can you hit the highlights of the changes on the food?
You just want a summary of the changes?
Yeah,
Yep.
other
Yeah.
than the 3 listed here, just tell me.
Yeah, essentially, well, I think that's the majority of the ones listed there, but the times were more restrictive in the current ordinance. We're expanding those to be more uniform. I think we had 2 a.m. as a closing time for just Fridays and Saturdays. We're expanding that to all the days, except not 2 a.m. to 11 p.m. We've done away with the 300-foot from the transient food vehicles, or under the current ordinance, are not allowed within 300 feet of any other restaurant establishment. We're removing that. And then really those are the only changes. David, anything to add other than the ones that are listed, I think?
The only other change in there was, because this is no longer in this proposed ordinance, is just allowing them to be in any commercial or industrial district. It's no longer an overlay district, so we just took that out of the ordinance name.
With the exception of B1.
Can they park on the street?
No. So this is still required that they be on private property with owner's authorization.
Okay, well, so then with that, I really like these changes. I was on the council when we made the overlay and I don't like overlay districts. I was on the council when we did it, and I vote, even though I support food trucks, I voted against the ordinance because it was just so bad. This really cleans it up and is an improvement in the right direction. So I really like what you did here.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? So on these first readings of proposed, or we have a motion, we have a second. Administrator Bergman seems to think that we need a roll call vote on these. I don't think so. We have Joe, our city attorney, but we also have Tiffany, who knows a lot about this stuff. I always thought we roll called the resolution adopting the ordinance. Are you suggesting, Mr. Langle, that Administrator Bergman is correct, or Tiffany? Either of you care to weigh in? We've never roll called a first reading.
Yeah, I was trying to double check it here. This says that all ordinances shall be passed by affirmative vote.
Sorry, thanks.
And that's the passage of the ordinance. So the first reading is not passage, it's just
Correct.
Yes, correct,
So it's a voice vote.
yes, sir.
That's what I thought. But just as so you're all recall, when we dispense with the actual reading of the ordinance, this voice vote must be unanimous, okay? According to the highlighted section on my thing. So we have a motion. We have a second. We've had discussion. Mr. Bergman? All right. Got her squared away. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. We're going to move on to the Country Manor. And this is a motion to conduct the first reading again, but I'm going to let Mr. Chansky have the floor for just a moment to bring us up to speed as to what we're looking at here, and maybe you're introducing a guest.
Absolutely, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
So the Foundation for Healthcare Continuums has submitted applications for rezoning and planned unit development. The applications request rezoning of 3 parcels along Beaver Dam Road from RA Rural Agricultural District to Planned Unit Development PUD District. The purpose of these requests is to construct a senior living facility comprised of 92 apartments and 18 memory care units, as well as a child care facility. The Planning Commission considered the rezoning and PUD request on a special meeting held on Wednesday, May 26th. Upon hearing staff's finding of fact, receiving a walkthrough of the development by the applicant, and conducting a public hearing, which there were members of the Northtown neighborhood who did participate in that public hearing, the commission voted unanimously for two separate items, as also listed in your agenda tonight. To recommend approval of the requested rezoning from RA Rural Agricultural District to Planned Unit Development District, and likewise voted unanimously to recommend approval of the development stage plan for this planned unit development, conditional on the rezoning of the property and the use of the city's residential lighting standards throughout the development as outlined in section 515-18 of the city code. Here with us tonight is Brian Kelm, who is the CEO of Country Manor. And Mr. Chair, if you would like, he would be willing to introduce himself and Country Manor and what they would like to bring to the city of Brainerd.
Absolutely. Mr. Kelm, come on up. You have to give your name. We're on, well, it's not television anymore. It's the interweb. So you have to give your name and address, and it can be the corporate address, so people who are watching on the internet know who you are.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, council members. Thank you, Mayor. This has been a long time coming for us to get this far. We started
No, you
working.
have to do that right now. You have to give your name and your address.
My name is Brian Kilm. Our organization's address is 520 First Street Northeast in Sartell, Minnesota.
Perfect. Sorry to interrupt you.
That's okay. But we're excited to be here. We've been working on this project with the city officials for at least 2 years now. And we're finally at a point where we can begin to move it forward. And hopefully as our pandemic eases and we can move forward with our project. But Country Manor's been around since 1970. We started as a 60-bed nursing facility, and today it sits on 25 acres, and we have a number of operating entities. So outside of the long-term care beds, which is now 165 total, we have 241 senior living units, along with a convenience store and pharmacy and a physician's clinic located in the same building. We also have a child daycare center. We have a home health agency, non-emergency transportation agency, a rehab agency, and we have Drake's Fine Food and Spirits on that campus. And so what we learned over the years is folks love to enjoy life, and that's our mission, is enriching lives by providing superior health care and service. So with all that said, we are excited to bring that culture and that idea up to Brainerd. We were proposing 112. I think it's 110 or 112 units, and the square footage, there's much common space there. So our goal is to allow that quality of life. We believe to put a facility like this on the edge of town so folks can ambulate, do what they enjoy. So we envision some walking trails around the campus. We allow them, we hope that they can see nature, be part of nature, and then also allow what's inside during the more cold months of the year. Everything that we're proposing is connected so they'd be able to ambulate in a weather-controlled environment. So with that, that's a quick introduction of who we are and what we're bringing to Brainerd. I'll turn it back over.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chansky, anything else you wish to state on the item?
So this is a multi-stage process. So first, we need to do the rezoning. That's the first item. But when it comes to the plan unit development itself, what the city council would be approving tonight is the development stage plan, which is in your packet. Then from there, any conditions or amendments that would be put on this development stage plan, the Planning Commission is recommending that the one condition is that it conform to the residential lighting standards of the zoning code. They would approve that. From there, Attorney Lango would begin developing a developer's agreement between the city and Country Manor. And then when Country Manor is ready to start actually developing their project, they would come back to the Planning Commission and City Council with a final stage plan that incorporates all of the included conditions, everything that's pretty much been finalized, and then they would approve that, and then that would give them the go-ahead to go and start their construction project, and that will come probably in a couple months from now.
Excellent, thank you. Before we look for a motion, any questions of Mr. Chansky or Mr. Erickson? I'm going to ask the one that you asked me, Gabe, and maybe Mr. Erickson, you can answer this. If we weren't at the planning and zoning meeting, can you share any comments from the public? They're not listed here. Was there any?
Yeah, I think the comments that I heard were just concerns, questions. I think there was one that said that they were concerned about it, saw the presentation, ended up liking the presentation. There was some concerns about just, how close is this going to be to the homes on Twin Street? I think those questions were answered. Based on one of the comments that I heard, I asked the question about the buffer kind of between the development and the homes on Twin Street, and what was between there, and it sounds like there's already a lot of trees and vegetation. So mostly just kind of concerns about proximity. Another one that I remember hearing was about the traffic. Would the traffic be going right onto Beaver Dam, or would those private roads that they'll be developing with this project connect to Warrior and those roads? And they would not at this point for this initial stage. Although the city, maybe you can talk about this, Mr. Chair,
I can.
retains those as easements for future. But at this point, there'd be no connection to those north town roads. And that was a question that I had asked too, is, would this additional growth cause spillage onto those residential roads? And at this point, no.
Excellent. Mr. Chansky.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I can just expound on what Councilmember Erickson was describing, if you see in the proposed plat in your packet, you'll see that there are platted roads coming off of Warrior and Wild Streets. Again, those are not intended to be built as part of this project. We as a city requested those, again, just as we have to anticipate any potential future growth, and if there would need to be access through to either properties to the, I guess, what is that, the north or the east, but they are not intended to be built. When you come right off of Beaver Dam, you'll come on a platted road, but then their plan is to immediately divert off that platted road onto private roads. So pretty much all of the roads within the development are gonna be private roads. We are just platting this as a point of, this is what we need to do as professionals to make sure that we're planning for any future development in our city, but we do not intend for them to be built at this time. And Engineer Sandy can comment on any of that too if you want further detail on that.
How do you do, Paul?
I think he hit the high points, yeah.
I think
That's
you did fine.
Exactly, right.
Mike, you have a question?
Yeah, just looking at the plan, there's one road in, and that's the same road, only way out in the end?
Correct.
Is that up to code as far as emergency exits and options with that?
And this project, we as Brian said, we've been meeting with them. I think it's actually going on 3 years at this point, and we've had lots of round table discussions with them, with the police department, with the fire department, with the building department, community development, engineering, to make sure all the elements of this site were up to code from everything from public safety, engineering, utilities, development, building. So that has been reviewed by staff and approved.
Okay.
Any other questions of staff or Tad? Yes, Chairman Johnson.
Mr. Chair, I know it's been said by like 4 people in the last 30 seconds, but I just want to clarify. As of right now, the plan is not to connect to Warrior Avenue.
Correct.
It'll just be Beaver Dam will be the entrance, the exit. Warrior Avenue and that Northtown Meadows development or whatever isn't going to see an increase of traffic in the near future at all.
Correct.
Thank you. Engineer Sandy?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So with the platted streets, obviously David kind of covered the potential for any future development. As part of this project, we've also been working with the Crow Wing County Highway Department. And so there were some concerns about Beaver Dam Road and kind of the speeds you see on there, potential for increased traffic, rear end collisions, that kind of thing. The county is requiring that a left turn lane get installed at this location, much like you see further south of there at the other, I don't know what.
At Northtown.
Yeah, Northtown and the other senior living area down there. But the county is requiring that. They do have a cost match policy of 25%. So the county will be kicking in 25% to install left turn lane, with the other 75 being the responsibility of the developer at that location.
Thank you. All right. And as you heard Mr. Tansky say, this will be coming back, but tonight we're looking to approve 2 motions. The first one is to conduct the first reading of proposed ordinance 1518, an ordinance amending ordinance number 812 pertaining to the zoning in the city of Brainerd, and dispense with the actual reading. So this will be the zoning change. Okay, motion by Pritchett, second by O'Day. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed same sign, and that is unanimous. And item 2 is the motion to approve the development stage plan. And you heard this will be coming back, but this is the development stage plan for Country Manor, conditional on the rezoning, which we've already had. Well, we've had the first reading of the property and the use of the city's residential lighting standards throughout the development as outlined in section 515-18 of the city code.
So moved.
Motion by Johnson, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Stunek. Any discussion? Mr. Johnson.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I just want to say before we're done with this item, this is very exciting for the city of Brainerd. I want to thank the people from Country Manor for coming here and introducing yourselves today and for working so hard to get this development done. These 110 units are really needed in our area, and it'll help free up hopefully 110 homes that other people can move into, because we have a real housing crunch right now. So thank you for choosing to develop in Brainerd.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Tiffany.
Well, I just also want to thank you for including the daycare slots, because we also have a daycare crunch, and I'm sure that you will have a wait list for those infant spots. You might already have one going now.
I think we sent Stunek to the daycare.
Okay, Stunek to that's one less slot available in the daycare. All right, hearing no further discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye, opposed, same sign. All right, that motion carries unanimously, and thank you again, guys, for coming. I will echo Chairman Johnson's sentiments, and we will move on to D, which is the final plat of Lot 1, Block 1. I don't know how to pronounce this, the Myra addition to Brainerd Oaks. Mr. Chansky, anything that you'd like to bring up?
Yep, Mr. Chair, this is Eric and Don Myra submitted their request for a final plat. This was for the former Outlot B in the Brainerd Oaks addition to Brainerd. The purpose of this final plat request is to replat Outlot B to Lot 1, Block 1, Myra addition to Brainerd Oaks to allow them to build a single-family dwelling on the property. This was considered by the Planning Commission during the regular meeting on April. The preliminary plat was considered by the Planning Commission on April 21st, approved by Council on May 3rd, and the final plat was unanimously approved by the Planning Commission during the regular meeting on May 19th.
Any questions of Mr. Chansky as to what this is about? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the final plat for Lot 1, Block 1, Myra addition to Brainerd Oaks?
So move.
Motion by Erickson, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Pritchett. Any questions? Any discussion? Mr. Chairman Johnson?
No questions. I will be voting in opposition of this. There is a development agreement in place with the developer in Brainerd Oaks who has very high standards for how they are building their house. I don't like the idea that we are plopping a lot right in the middle of this very successful development that is still very fragile and allow somebody to move in like a trailer house or something in the middle of it. And so I will be voting no.
Excellent. Any further discussion? Yes, Mr. O'Day.
I think the main concern is that was supposed to be park space, but I do believe there's other options for park space. I just don't know if there's already plans for those other outlots so that they don't have a chance to become park space. Do you have an answer to that, David?
I have no knowledge. I guess Engineer Sandy, as a interim public works director, could speak to any plans that the Parks Department might have into that, but I know of no plans.
Mr. Sandy.
Yeah, so Mr. Yeager, actually, I don't remember when it was, but he kind of spoke up at one of these about kind of the direction the park board is going with any additions of future parks. What the park board is doing right now is really focusing on what we have, because we have a lot of parks and a lot of deferred maintenance. And from the park board's opinion, and Mr. Yeager was speaking on behalf of them, is that they would like to continue to put their focus on what we have already and put our maintenance and efforts into that. And there's no plans for any future parks additions as this park board, I guess, kind of feels at this point.
Thank you. Tad Erickson.
I was just going to point out that the Parks Board did decide, you're correct, it was initially intended to be a park area. They decided not to do that for various reasons. And then also the idea that it's being plopped in there like a trailer. I mean, I just want to point out that that outlot has the largest frontage around that cul-de-sac. So I think it's going to fit in there just fine. And we were intended to use that as a park space. Now we're not, and now we have a new homeowner to help address the aforementioned housing crisis. So obviously I made the motion, so I'm going to support it.
Excellent. Anything else on the final plat for Lot 1, Block 1 of the Myra addition? Mr. O'Day.
Final comment.
Yes.
The park that was supposed to represent would essentially be a swing set for the kids in the neighborhood and maybe a bench. So adding this to the park board agenda, if you're going to approve that, the only change I would strongly urge is for that neighborhood to have some space set aside since this space is being taken. That's what I would recommend. Each small neighborhood like this should have some place for kids to play, and this is a pretty cramped neighborhood. So, just my opinion.
Any other discussion? Any other discussion? Last call, we have a motion, we have a second to approve the final plat for Lot 1, Block 1 of the Meyer addition to Brainerd Oaks. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
And that motion passes.
Sounded close.
It did not. I appreciate your inability to do simple math. Next up is the discussion of the regulation of sober houses. I'm going to turn this over to Tad. Well, I'll turn it over to either Tad or Mr. Chansky, whoever would like to speak first, if either of you would like to speak on the issue of sober houses in the city of Brainerd. Tad or Mr. Chansky, either one? Or
Mr.
you'll both
Chansky,
get a chance.
if you wouldn't mind going first.
I can go.
Add on.
All right, Mr. Chansky, tell us what the issue is.
Mr. Chair, members of the council, the city started receiving some concerns about opening of a sober home at 470 Tyrell Drive from members of the Tyrell Hill neighborhood, as well, and I know some members of the city council also received some concerns and questions, and members of the planning commission as well in the last few months. In response to these concerns, the planning commission did hold a discussion on the topic of sober homes during their meeting on May 19th, which members of the community and the Tyrell Hills neighborhood were allowed to make comment. Council President Bevins was at this meeting, as well as obviously Council Liaison Erickson. In the end, there were 3 identified questions they wanted to be asked and addressed. As 1, can the city regulate parking for sober homes? 2, can the city implement proximity regulations for sober homes? How close can one sober home be to another sober home? And if so, what regulations would be appropriate? And 3, how are sober homes different than residential care facilities and boarding houses when it comes to regulating them? Attached to this is the memo that I gave to the Planning Commission, kind of outlining the history of this. This came first before the city in 2017, when then city planner Mark Osgarden brought it before the city to ask the council whether or not the city should regulate sober homes. At that time, the city council referred it to the planning commission. In April of 19, the planning commission issued a recommendation to the city council not to regulate sober homes. Issued the reasons in there were, they had 3 main reasons. Nuisance activities would be regulated under the rental housing code because they would be licensed rentals. The use cannot be singled out in a way that is significantly different than other uses that would go on legally because of Supreme Court decisions and because of the Federal Fair Housing Act. And if issues did arise in the future, the commission would reserve the right to look at this use as a use similar to group homes, but at this time there's no evidence that this activity will be anywhere near as intense as group home. That recommendation went before the council on May 15th of 2017, and the council upheld the commission's recommendation to reject regulation of sober homes because sufficient oversight of the use can occur under city code. Since that time, 3 licensed sober homes have opened in the city by Ms. Sheila Haverkamp, one at 215 North 10th Street, one at 460 Tyrell Drive, and then the most recent one at 470 Tyrell Drive. The one on North 10th Street, it's in a B1 neighborhood office district, which allows single-family dwellings, and then the other 2 in Tyrell are an R1A. Ms. Haverkamp's properties are licensed by as single-family rentals on an annual basis and inspected by the city. And she's also registered all her properties are registered as housing with service establishments by the Department of Health. She does also happen to have another sober home in Little Falls. So the issue at hand, kind of what came again with this newest opening of 470 Tyrell Drive as a sober home. Again, concerns from the neighborhood came forward. This was discussed at the Planning Commission. Again, Councilmember Erickson and Council President Bevins were present. Planning Commission Chair Mike Duval is also present here tonight, and he could also share, if the council wants, on what was discussed there that night. Council President Bevins has just asked that this be placed on the agenda tonight for council discussion to provide staff direction regarding staff and the Planning Commission regarding how to move forward. I'll take any questions, Council President Bevins, that you or the rest of the council may have.
I'm going to turn it over to Tad next, but I do have 2 questions, and they're the same 2 I asked you in an email. What can we regulate how close they are? And the reason this comes up is there's some federal laws, correct, Mr. Tansky, as far as what you can and cannot do with these, which is part of how we got here. And can you regulate the density in the house? Meaning, can I have 30 people, 60? What is the limitation in one home?
And to answer those questions, Mr. Chair, I'm actually going to hand it over to Attorney Langle, and he can answer those as well.
So in terms of, let's go back through your questions. What was your first question?
The first question is, can the city regulate how many or how close these are?
Close, yes. City of St. Paul has been doing that for some time. For example, they don't allow sober homes within 330 feet of each other, roughly a block. So they have a proximity limitation in their ordinance. The City of St. Paul spent a lot of time analyzing sober houses, impact on the city and so forth. They've got quite a bit of material on it. So yeah, you can do that, regulate proximity, the distances between them.
Okay, and how about how many people live in one? I have a 3-bedroom home. Can I turn my house into a sober home? And what is the limitations regarding density within the house?
I think density goes back to, what? Yeah, it goes back to your building code. That's not a city issue so much as the building code allows a certain number of people residing in the home per bedroom, I think, or square footage. I can't remember exactly how that works.
Per square footage?
I think so.
So it goes, and I'll go into that more, Mr. Council President. So how it works is, it's both regulated by the building code, which as a reminder, the city adopts is the state's Minnesota building code, and is also reflected in our rental housing code. And what it's based off of is the size of a bedroom. So square footage of a bedroom allows you to have how many people can sleep or reside in that bedroom, and then also how much space you have to have, like living space, kitchen space. So as long as those criteria are met, that is what ultimately would determine the occupancy of one of these homes.
Perfect. Any other questions of Mr. Tansky? Mr. Johnson?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I guess I have one question. In our city code, like for single-family residential, I believe we can only have 3 or 4 or 12 unrelated people in a single-family residential house. So it makes me think maybe we can't use city code to enforce anything on these houses because of federal law and the Fair Housing Act and Americans with Disability Act, it is a different situation that perhaps does need to be addressed, and we only address the things which we legally can address. But not addressing it at all and pretending the city code, which does not apply, works, doesn't make sense to me because the city code does not apply. If we say you can't have more than 3 unrelated people in a single-family residential house, well, we can't say that to this house, so we should address that.
Absolutely. Thank you. Okay, planning and zoning liaison, Tad Erickson, anything you wish to add to this discussion?
Yeah, so I was just gonna, summarize the concerns that were brought up by the neighbors. Yes, density was one of them. Motorcycle noise from some of the tenants, parking. Correct me if I'm wrong, Community Development Director Chansky, but there has been no violations with.
Correct. We have not, to any of the 3 properties Ms. Haverkamp owns, we've never issued a ordinance violation.
So that was brought out at the meeting, but then also the proximity issue was brought up as an issue. And that was the point that I wanted to make, that I made it at the meeting and also in an email, is I think we need to find out more information on the Federal Fair Housing Act and how that applies. And I think we've got some answers of that tonight, on just what Councilman Johnson said. What can we take action on and what can't we take action on? And it's sounding like the density issue we maybe can't because the zoning ordinance applies for those zones, but then this house falls under a different category. But perhaps the proximity is an area that we could take into consideration. So I just wanted to kind of summarize it like that. And I think, are we looking for I think you wanted to get kind of a sense of where the council wanted to go before kicking it back to planning commission.
Any other questions? Chairman Johnson?
I just have just one thought. The memo says that Ms. Haverkamp operates 3 and she does a great job and she's never been cited. I don't think we should be setting policy based on what any individual property owner of the city does or doesn't do. And I don't really care who does or does not own properties. I think when we're looking at policy, we should be looking at setting good policy, not worrying about who is actively affected by that policy today. Because we're setting policy that hopefully we don't need to touch for another generation. So I just think we shouldn't take into consideration at all who does or does not own the properties.
Good point. Thank you. Chairman O'Day?
Mr. Lango, you mentioned that St. Paul had a lot of information and literature on this subject that they use to base their regulations, correct?
Correct. They've gone through, they went through this process, I don't know, a few years ago. Because there was the proliferation of those homes in St. Paul.
Okay. I think before we move forward with any regulation of any of this stuff, we should all be aware of what that conclusion was by the city of St. Paul, just as an example.
Yeah, we can certainly bring that information forward to the city.
Well, that's the next step, as, I mean, certainly we have a committee, an advisory committee that's done an excellent job already taking public testimony on this issue. But I don't want to kick it back with no recommendation. I want to kick it back with some sort of direction as to what we want P&Z to do rather than just look at this, right? I think it should be look at this in regards to home density as to what can be regulated, look at this in regards to proximity and what the best possible thing is. That's what their task is. Now, the chairman of planning and zoning is here, and he's raised his hand, and I'd like to recognize him. You have to come up to the microphone, and we all know who you are, but not everybody does. So please state your name and your address, and give us your thoughts.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mike Duvall, 468 Tyrol Drive, Chair of the Planning Commission. I think one of the things that the commission struggled with were the legal things, and so access to legal counsel is helpful in this, and you have that access to be able to render some of the questions about process. So when we come to the Fair Housing Act and requests for special accommodation, what is that request? What's the form of that request need to be? And I think looking at the St. Paul ordinance is helpful. There are some tools that they seem to have that ask about what the needs are so they can then look at their ordinance and make some decisions about, can we accommodate this within the ordinance? Do we have to make a special accommodation? So there's process things that would be helpful if you're going to kick it task it to the Planning Commission to work on. It will be helpful for us to be able to have some of the legal process questions and things either addressed or have access to a legal counsel so we can work through those pieces.
Good point.
Okay.
Any questions of hang on, any questions of planning and zoning chair before? No? Okay, thank you. Mr. Stunek, did you have a question?
I do not.
Okay, Mr. Johnson, one more or not? No? Okay, so we're looking for a motion, if you desire, to set this issue back to planning and zoning, and what particularly we're looking for. Yes, Mr.
I have
Johnson.
a question before that motion, seeing if that's what you're looking for, and it sounds like the chair of the commission, Duval, likes the access to legal counsel, so perhaps we need to direct Joe to be available, or we need Joe to give us a cost estimate of what it's gonna cost to dive into the issue, since it may or may not be part of his standard legal services.
Joe, can you answer that?
Is it part of the retainer? No. Can you direct? Yes, that's part of the deal under your charter, if I believe. In terms of the amount, this isn't going to be a huge thing, I don't think. We've already done, we've already done some work on this. So it's a matter of looking back at what we've done, making sure that it's still current. I mean, this isn't some major undertaking to advise the planning commission as to what the outlines are, if you will, of the legal authority. Does that make sense? I mean, I'm not looking at a 10 grand bill or anything like that. That's not what this is.
But could you, if it does look like this could get involved, keep us posted?
Absolutely.
At least through Mr. Chansky.
Yep.
Liaison to planning and zoning, our staff liaison, thank you. Good point, Mr. Johnson, thank you. Okay, we need a motion to do something.
I have a motion then, if you're ready.
Please, Mr.
So
Johnson.
I would move to send this back to planning and zoning and direct the city attorney to work with the planning and zoning commission to identify what it is we can regulate and to have the planning and zoning come back to the city council, adding some addressing sober houses in our city code insofar as that we're allowed to.
Second.
We have a motion by Johnson.
Is that clear enough? Vague enough?
Tell you what, in a second by Stangline, planning and zoning chair, do you understand the motion?
I think so.
All right, you can always come back with questions. Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion?
I have one question.
Yes, Mr. Sunick.
Do we want to include an addendum on that motion to maybe reach out to the city of St. Paul to get since they may have a good blueprint that we can compare notes, or is that?
That, Mr. Attorney will
we'll do that.
handle
Okay,
that.
that's fine.
I'm sure he's actually, it sounds like he may have already.
Just want to throw that
But
out.
good point, excellent point. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same sign, that motion carries. Thank you all. Next up is ad hoc committees. This is City Administrator Bergman has submitted this. Administrator Bergman, what's the issue here?
Absolutely. So another discussion item for you to consider, just staff is looking for a little bit of direction on this. The city has had ad hoc committees throughout the years. From our research, every ad hoc committee has kind of been handled a little bit differently. Currently, we have 3 ad hoc committees. That's the Parking Commission, the Water Tower Committee, and Walkable Bikeable. We also have the Brainerd Riverfront Committee, but that wasn't established as an ad hoc committee. It was more of a citizens commission. So gave you a little bit of background on each one of these ad hoc committees, and I think what we're really looking for is just some direction from the council on when these are established, and then also for the ad hoc committees that are currently established, who appoints the members? Is that a council president appointment, mayor appointment with council confirmation? How many committee members are there on ad hoc committees? Would it be 5, 7, 9? Should there be a staff liaison to each commission or committee? Who prepares that agenda? Is that a staff agenda that's created? So Walkable Bikeable, I think the chair does it, where staff does it for Parking Commission. And then what is the expectation of a structure of an ad hoc committee? And then I think staff would recommend that when we do ad hoc committees that that the council provide the committee with a specific task that really is the purpose of an ad hoc committee. You know, for example, the Water Tower Committee is to raise funds to fix the water tower. Walkable Bikeable, actually, their goal was, or their task was, to do the non-motorized transportation plan, which was actually completed back in 2016. And then the Parking Commission was started to kind of review our revenues on parking lots and what the city should do about that. And they've actually come back with a list of, I think, about 7 items that they're continuing to kind of research with the blessing of the council. So I think just a kind of a bigger umbrella discussion. Walkable Bikeable seems like a really great ad hoc committee with lots of great work they could be doing. But what exactly does the council want that committee to be doing? So I guess with that, I would just throw it back to you, Mr. President. I think what we would like to do is just kind of get some feedback on these ad hoc committees, and then we can come back with maybe some kind of procedure guideline, whatever, for these committees going forward.
Perfect. I understand the issue. Any questions on the issue? Okay. My thoughts would be, we all have your email address. Rather than sit here and shout out ideas, 5 members, 3 members, whatever. Can we set the next council agenda? You have till then, which is 2 weeks, to give your thoughts to Administrator Bergman to help guide her with some policy on the ad hoc committees. Does that seem fair enough? Okay, there's no motion needed.
Nope, thank you.
Please report to Administrator Bergman, and she'll either designate somebody to do it or she'll do it. So.
Thank you.
I bet I can answer that. But that's certainly a good issue. And I've stated a lot of my thoughts on ad hoc committees, so, over the years, over the decades. All right, anything else that anybody wants to add on the discussion on ad hoc committees? No. Okay, next up is unfinished business. Item 9A is a call for applicants. These applications are available on the city's website. The mayor recommends, Mr. Mayor, what do you recommend these days?
Oh, the mayor is taking a role of Coach Bedeau right now and informing some of you, you've been reading the signals wrong. You thought I was giving you the signal for bunt on these applications. I've been giving you the signal for swing away. So let's go ahead and get you in here. I'll be making some recommendations at the next council meeting. So if you have yet to get in your application, now is the time to do so. The following applications will be found at the city's website, www.ci.brainerd.mn.us. These are the mayor recommendations for terms expiring on 12/31 of said year. The Cable TV Advisory Committee, which we just had some great stuff come from them, 1 term expiring 2021, 2 terms expiring 2022. The Charter Commission, 1 term expiring 2022. The Housing Redevelopment Authority, 1 term expiring 2022. The Park Board, you get to sit with me and have a lot of fun talking about baseball. 1 term expiring 2024. Rental Dwelling License Board of Appeals, 3 terms expiring 2022. And Transportation Advisory Committee, 1 term expiring 2022. We also have the following that are the term that is expiring 9/7 of said year. That is the Economic Development Authority, 1 term expiring 2021.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and as council president, I have 1 opening on Police and Fire Civil Service Commission. That is a single term to expire in 2023, as well as the ad hoc committee. We're looking for 2 positions for the Water Tower Committee. Next up is item 10. There's a public forum. It's time allocated. Usually we try and keep it around 3 minutes for citizens to bring matters that we have not discussed already on the agenda to the attention of the council. Is there anybody?
Mr. Chair, Sean is attempting to help Mr. Millard make his connection for public forum.
Perfect. So Sean, when you've got that connected, let us know. If not, and you're on, and I'm not sure that we have anybody online with us now, you would *3 to be noted, and then *6 will get you unmuted. So, I'm not sure that I see anybody online with us now, but we'll give IT Director Strong just a minute to see if they can help a citizen get connected. Get a 2-minute break.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Kevin already took his.
Yeah, well, showed us how to do it.
Hold the phone up to the microphone.
Give Sean the numbers.
The trouble is, he says when he calls the 800 number, it's not connecting, but every phone I've tried it on is working, so I'm not sure what the issue is.
He must have went to the Mike J. School of Telephones.
Nothing. He said nothing.
Be like this.
But it was sort of funny. Are we still not getting through?
Do you want to just call him and put him up to the speaker?
Just done with.
Yeah, let's try that. excellent point, excellent idea, Mr. Sandy.
It's the engineer figuring things out for us.
Right.
Aux cable anywhere?
In my car.
I can do it.
Need a dongle for mine.
Isn't that a great word?
Yeah.
That's an awesome word.
I had a buddy that challenged me on that word one time. I go, oh, trust me, dongle.
It's a dongle.
Challenge me. Can put him in.
All we can do is try.
We got technology now.
Yeah, maybe we could run a soup can.
Sean could act as interpreter.
Next to a microphone here. That spring nice and taut.
Okay.
If you can still talk to him through the phone, Sean, could you ask him to state his name and address and then give us the 3-minute what for?
Did you hear that, Jim?
I think I'm supposed to state my name and address.
Yeah,
It's
perfect.
James T. Millard at 1606 South 7th Street here in Brainerd.
Proceed.
Proceed.
Okay, I had some questions about the ordinance specific to signage and flags, and I guess I'm just not familiar with if it's being, when it was discussed and when ordinances came up specifically, probably around the election and or post-election timeframe with some of the profanity and obscene things that are on flags and or signage. When I had called with a specific complaint a couple of months ago, I was called back by the city right away. They were very prompt and they explained the ordinance to me. And a lot of it had to do with size and quantity of signs and or flags. But I was told that content is not monitored. Is that correct?
You know, Jim, can you hear me at all?
I can hear you.
This is not, if you've got questions on the ordinance, you are very welcome to call into City Hall anytime during the week. This is your opportunity to give us your thoughts as to what you like or don't like about it. Now, it's just that, you know, it's not really a question and answer opportunity today. It's you telling us what you think of the ordinance. So if you think of something that you like or don't like, let us know right now. If you've got questions on what the ordinance says, call in tomorrow. And we'll have somebody, probably David Chansky, explain it.
Okay, sir, I think then from what I understand of the ordinance is I don't like the ordinance if it is that the city of Brainerd does not enforce content. Or I should say does not monitor content, because that allows for hate speech, or even if it isn't hate speech by the technical term, it creates a negative attitude. And that was what prompted my initial complaint to the city. And since then, I've noticed that this particular instance, that the flags went away. Now, I don't know if that's coincidental or not, because my assumption is that there has not been any change to the ordinance. I did read through the ordinance, sir. I looked, I believe it was in detail in April's minutes. I'm going from memory here. And it referred to state statutes which govern obscenity. I couldn't find anything that referred to profanity, but that's kind of a gray area. So I do not like the way the ordinance is written. I believe that we should have a little more control over what people have. I understand it was posted on private property, but when it's visible by the public, driving by, walking by, then it's not private, not in my mind. So that's my concern, and I appreciate your time.
Perfect. Thank you, Jim. Anything else?
That's all.
All right. Thanks for calling in.
Thank you.
Sorry we had difficulties.
we'll figure
All
it
right,
out.
I don't see anybody else that's looking to get involved, so thank you, Sean, for helping out, and we will close the public forum and move on to staff reports. We'll start with City Administrator Bergman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. A couple of things. Tomorrow is the first Here for Good Market that will be held from 3 to 7 p.m. Downtown Brainerd. It will be on 7th Street between Front and Laurel. I do believe that they're only closing the street between Front and the alley. So would encourage you to take a stroll downtown Brainerd and see what's happening there. The banners, we are still waiting for them. There has been some issues, but BPU is ready to go get them and install them. And then just a couple of things to mention of note. We are staff reviewing the employee policy manual, so I do anticipate that you'll be having a draft employee policy manual with some changes to consider. Probably, I'm guessing it'll be in one of your July meetings. And then also we did get a notification from LELS to start union negotiations. Our goal was to start these in July. However, LELS is not available until August 4th. So we are starting that as well. And that concludes my update, Mr. President.
Thank you, City Administrator. So we'll go right down the row here. Nothing from the Finance Department. How about the Engineering Department?
Well, we got a lot of really exciting things going on in the world of public works per se. So you'll notice that last week, we put the flags up on the water towers, and that was a welcome sight by a lot of community members. We got a lot of positive PR about getting those up before Memorial Day. We've also begun painting the crosswalks downtown, which has been going well. We did lose one of our temporary seasonal maintenance employees, so we're painting with a two-man crew. We actually designated one of our engineering interns to go help out to try to get stuff done before the 4th of July. So that's exciting that we're doing that. The roundabout project, we should be striping that tomorrow, Mr. Stunek. The hope being that Wednesday or Thursday it is open to traffic. It's really dependent.
What time? I want to be the first one.
There's already been hundreds through there.
That doesn't matter. I would never do that.
Little convertible, I just can't spot the driver.
The project is looking really, really good. Anderson Brothers has done a great job of keeping on schedule and making sure they're aware that it's a very time-sensitive project and getting it open. So we'll be starting on phase 2 later this week, which was everywhere south of the roundabout. So you'll be able to access Jackson Street heading west. Basically is the way you'll have to get into town, but you won't have to go.
Now I gotta go to the roundabout and go to Paul Bunyan's somewhere to get back to town again. I'm going the other way.
Otherwise, our other construction projects in southeast Brainerd, they're going very well. We began digging in water main here the last week and a half, and so those are on track for our completion dates in the fall here. So everything's going well, and we have some exciting things going on. And you'll notice that the College Drive roundabouts were all remulched and weeded here recently, which this will happen. On Wednesday this week, we're actually doing the City Hall planters also with that same mulch and things.
And that Tom Turkey is back now.
Yep, Tom Turkey is back, so watch out for him on College Drive.
Thank you, Mr. Sandy. Community Development Director Chansky.
Just one item, Mr. Chair. The Parking Commission will be holding a town hall meeting tomorrow, Tuesday, June 8th at 7 p.m. here in the council chambers. They are looking to hear from members of the public on issues, any comments, questions, concerns, anything they'd just like to say about parking here in Brainerd. We do also intend to live stream that town hall meeting for people to view online as well. So if you're interested in parking, have any opinion, or are just curious about that, you're welcome here at 7 o'clock tomorrow here in the council chambers. If you're gonna go to the Here for Good Market, might as well just wander on over and talk about parking. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Excellent. Anything from the world? Nothing there. From the police? Nope. Thank you. IT department? Anything, Sean? And how about nothing from human resources? All right, Mr. Mayor.
Oh my gosh, I get to speak again. That's fantastic.
Number 8.
Coach Mayor. Yeah, Coach Mayor. Just want to say super fast, thank you to staff. You made me, let me check off 2 of my items from my list. So staff knocking it out of the park. That's a baseball reference. Just want to say super fast, speaking of Parks and Rec, Parks and Rec stuff is underway. And obviously, as you can see, the kids are playing baseball. I just want to speak super fast about the new setup we got going with community ed and with the park system. I think it's going great. The numbers are looking really good as far as kids that are playing. The skills that the kids are learning seem to be very well. It's some growing pains that we're going to have to work out. I think there's some things when we get to the end of this year that we're going to have to look at, and I think the park board is already aware of that, and we'll be moving through that. So very positive. Also very hot out and sweaty. All right, the other item that I really want to talk about is Memorial Day ceremony that took place last Monday. That was very fantastic. I want to thank former councilwoman Jan Lambert for her involvement in that, as well as Bill Satry of B93. He did a fantastic job. My son was in attendance with me for that as well, so it was a good event to have. And then just super fast, Arts in the Park will be June 27th at the wonderful Gregory Park. So if you are an artist, I know our application says you had to have it in already, but you could probably talk to a guy real nice. His name's Dave Bedeau. You could probably talk to him real nice, and he may let you in. And then also 4th of July parade. All right, we got big things coming. We got real impressive things coming from this here city of Brainerd, but also some real fun floats from community members as well. If you are out there and you have a cool idea and you want to be a part of what will be the single greatest 4th of July parade of all times, please contact a gentleman named Dave Bedeau. End of report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We'll go now to council committee members. We'll go on this end to Tiffany Stegline.
We're at Chief Holmes.
Oh, I'm sorry, right, on, if you can pull up the screen again, Sean, we've got Fire Chief Holmes, anything you wish to add? Star 6, and we'll let you talk. He might be. Probably opened his laptop, turned it on, and then went and left.
He's already in this one.
All right, Eric Charpentier from the HRA, anything you've got to add?
Nothing at this time, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, whoever that was.
That was Eric.
Okay.
Fire Chief in Little Falls.
All right. Yeah. Hacking into the Brainerd City Council meeting.
Cyber attack.
Tiffany Stangline, we'll start with you.
Nothing this evening,
Thank you.
Oh, I can't wait.
Chief
The roundabout again, Chief?
Yeah.
No, I was part of the Memorial Day ceremony too. It was very well attended. And then we had, we served almost 300 people at the Legion afterwards. Free hot dogs and hamburgers. I cooked 180 of them.
Wow.
Should have seen me.
Made you eat and licked 120 of them.
All right. Chairman of Person on Finance, Gabe Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a few things. The first thing I wanted to say is College Drive looks amazing. I know Paul mentioned it in his report, but so often it has to come to the city, complaints come to the city council, we have to bring it up at a council meeting, and then it gets fixed. This year, proactively, College Drive looks great, so good job to the Public Works Department. The EDA met, they had their strategic planning session, they had a meeting, they have a lot of good things in the works. I'm going to let Alderman O'Day tell you all about it in his report.
Watch him say nothing to report.
I would just like to remind you, I too dislike your sign ordinance. Also, the fire department, if you didn't notice earlier, the fire department is putting a side-by-side up on the public auction site. If you're in the market for a side-by-side, you have not been able to find one for like a year. There is going to be one available with a trailer on the public auction site. I suggest going to bid on it.
I emailed him during the meeting, I bought it.
It's already sold, sorry. And finally, The Big Lebowski is currently streaming on Netflix. If you haven't watched it in the last 10 years, I recommend watching it.
The dude abides.
Recommending Netflix movies. If I remember, you voted against the sign ordinance because it wasn't liberal enough. You wanted.
I didn't say I agree with the caller. I said.
All right. Okay. I didn't want. Yes, as a matter of fact, I was just recently there. Tad Erickson.
Just a couple committee updates. The Northland Arboretum Board of Directors met May 26th. Really good things. Membership's up. Their staff's working on applying for several different grants. Probably the biggest thing that came out of the meeting, they're pursuing bids for a new sign, and they're working with the city of Baxter on making sure it's compliant with their codes. The May TAC meeting was canceled, so we're looking for a next meeting date for that. And then, of course, all the things we talked about planning commission related, I'll leave it at that. So,
Thank you. Dave Pritchett?
Just a couple things. First of all, I'd like to extend a very warm thank you to the city of Brainerd and especially the Brainerd Police Department supporting religious freedom in Brainerd, the Corpus Christi procession. The police officers and liaison, they were awesome. With the traffic control and everything, it was great. Nobody passed out, nobody fainted. That was good too. Second of all, from the library now has 4 state park passes that they can lend out. Yes, they're good for a week. And the way I understand it, they'll pay for the camping fee too, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But they have 4 of them that you can basically check out from the library, which will allow you into any of the state parks. So it's a good deal. Go to the library, take advantage of that. Get out there, maybe when it's not 150 degrees, but hey, if that's what you like Chief Stunek, go for it, right?
I like the heat.
I know. I'd rather it be cold, but that's just the way I'm wired. All right, so that's all I got.
Thank you. Mike O'Day, Chairman of SPNW.
Yeah, Charter Commission did not meet this month. I believe we meet Wednesday. So we'll have more coming, hopefully after that. Walkable, bikeable, I have no idea what's going on with, so I don't know if they met or not. The EDA did meet, and we had a great meeting. We finally have clear and concise goals that we're going to track. So it's going to be different than what it's been in the past. I think you'll see some things coming through the EDA now in the next several years that could be very, very productive for this town. So we're pretty excited about it. End of report.
Thank you. And I just want, Chris Schubert, pay attention in case I screw this up. Recently was Memorial Day. And there's been a lot of comments about the Memorial Day programs here in the city of Brainerd. But having sat in this room longer than anybody up here.
Combined.
There's, and I can't list everybody who's past who's ever worked for the city of Brainerd, and I apologize for that. But 4 people who I got to work with in this room, I want to mention by name because they meant a lot to me and they worked their butt off for every person in the city of Brainerd. We all remember long-term city engineer Jeff Halsether, passed away in the last couple years. His wife, I believe, still lives in the city of Brainerd. City councilman and past Mayor Bob Olson, got to work with for many, many years. Wife Kathy and lots of family members still live in the Brainerd Lakes area. City council member, past Mayor Bonnie Cumberland, passed away tragically. Well, it's always a tragedy. And I got to serve with Bonnie for many, many years. Miss her very much. And of course, Mayor James Walleen, who was also a city council member for a long time and long-term mayor. Now, I apologize if I've missed somebody, but those are 4 people that sat in this room, just like you people are, meeting after meeting, meeting after meeting, public hearing after public hearing, and did their best for the citizens of Brainerd. They've passed away. I can't think of a better time than Memorial Day to mention them by name. So, I'm not asking for anything other than you take a second in your own time and say, thank you to those people who have served the city of Brainerd, who are no longer with us. All right, that being...
Excellent gesture.
Thank you. We are now moving on to adjournment, which is one of all of our favorites.
Okay.
This evening, we have a motion by past Fire Chief Stunek, second by PNF Chairman Johnson. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye.